The stars above the Kith Dominion fleet twinkled like distant fires, cold and distant, yet full of silent warnings. Commander Tirena Valcor stared at them from the bridge of her flagship, the Iron Talon, her fingers brushing the controls absent-mindedly. To her, the stars had always seemed empty of danger, except for one thing: humans. She had grown up on stories of humanity, tales that had traveled across the galaxy like legends in old, dusty archives. Terrans, they were called, once fierce warriors who had challenged the greatest powers of their age. Their ships had been fast, their weapons strange and deadly, and their courage unmatched. Yet Tirena did not believe in them. Humans were supposed to be extinct. The Dominion archives were clear. Centuries ago, their civilizations had fallen to wars, famine, and disease. None had survived. They were ghosts. Legends used to scare cadets, myths to fill bedtime stories, and yet, as the Dominion fleet approached the mining outpost on Virel 9, her instincts, those small, quiet alerts that commanders learned to trust, whispered that something was wrong. The outpost was supposed to be abandoned. The Dominion had detected faint signals from mining drones, but nothing more. A routine mission, Tirena had told herself. But something in the readings suggested intelligence, precision. Someone or something was waiting. Tirena's second-in-command, Lieutenant Curran, leaned over her shoulder. Commander, sensor readings show movement near the landing zone. Too coordinated for the usual wildlife. Could be rogue miners. Tirena's eyes narrowed. Rogue miners don't move like trained soldiers. Curran hesitated. Yes, ma'am. But it's just one signature, minimal. Could be a stray survivor. Human survivors? The word made her smile, sharp, cold. Humans? She repeated, letting it hang in the air. Do you believe in old stories, Lieutenant? They are extinct. History remembers them only as myths. Curran did not answer. He knew better than to argue. The fleet descended, silent in the void, and the landing parties prepared. Tirena led her squad personally, wanting to see this anomaly with her own eyes. When the dropships pierced the thin atmosphere of Virel 9, the barren landscape stretched beneath them, a vast desert of rust-colored rock, wines stirring dust that shone like gold in the rising twin suns. The mining outpost appeared at the edge of a canyon, a jumble of steel structures, some broken, some smoking. And then Tirena saw it, a lone figure moving across the ridge. At first she thought it was one of her own troops out of position. But the figure did not run. It did not signal. It moved like a shadow, flowing from rock to rock, barely disturbing the dust. Her pulse quickened. It was not a soldier. It was not alien, and yet, it was alive. Scan him, she ordered. Lieutenant Curran adjusted the scanners, his fingers flying over the controls. Commander, it's humanoid. Biosigns indicate human, but that's impossible. All records say extinct. Tirena's eyes narrowed. She did not answer. Her mind raced. Could the stories be true? Could one human still exist, surviving silently for centuries? The figure stopped on a ridge and turned slightly, just enough for her to see the outline of a blade glinting in the sunlight. It was small, ancient-looking, yet lethal in form. Its presence was calm, confident. It did not flee. It did not panic. It simply waited. Open comms, Tirena ordered. Her voice carried across the battlefield. This is Commander Tirena Valcor of the Kith Dominion. You are trespassing on Dominion territory. Identify yourself. The figure did not move. It did not speak. Not a sound came from the helmeted visor. Only the blade remained steady in the human's hand. Curran frowned. Ma'am, no response. Sensors show no energy emission, no electronic interference, nothing. It's like he's not broadcasting. Tirena took a deep breath. Her hand rested on her hip near her sidearm. Prepare for engagement. But, cautiously, I want to see what he does next. The human shifted. One slow step forward, and then another, not aggressively, not running, just deliberate. Each step made the troops uneasy. They had fought many alien creatures, many rogue factions, but nothing had ever moved with this level of calm confidence, Tirena observed. She was trained to read soldiers, humans, aliens, any species. She had watched troops hesitate, panic, retreat. But this human, he moved with patience. Every action precise, every pause deliberate. It was unnerving. She turned to Curran. Hold your fire. Let him come closer. Watch his techniques. Minutes passed. The human approached slowly, deliberately, never breaking his rhythm. Her troops were tense, weapons ready. The air between them was charged, silent but heavy with expectation. Finally, the human stopped just beyond rifle range. He raised the blade slightly, not in threat but as if acknowledging her presence. Still not a word. Still no emotion beyond quiet determination. Tyrina studied him. Every instinct screamed that this was not an ordinary survivor. This was a fighter, one trained in ways that the galaxy had long forgotten. "Sir," Coran whispered, "he's not attacking." "Why isn't he attacking?" Tyrina shook her head. "He's not here to fight mindlessly. He's teaching a lesson, something we have forgotten." The tension in the ranks was palpable. Soldiers shifted nervously. Their weapons trembled in their hands, not from fatigue, but from the realization that they were facing a being unlike any other. Tyrina stepped forward, keeping her own weapon lowered. "I want him alive," she said softly, almost to herself. "I need to understand. No one survives alone like this unless they are special." The human tilted his head slightly as if acknowledging her command, though she could not be sure. And then he did something unexpected. He dropped his blade into the sand, slowly, deliberately. Gasps echoed among her troops. Corin's jaw dropped. He's disarming himself. But why? Tyrina's eyes narrowed. He is not here to kill. He is here to show us something. Watch him, learn. For the first time she allowed herself a rare feeling. Curiosity. A fascination she had not felt in decades of command. Who was this human? How could one being alone survive all this time? And why face them in silence like a shadow from history itself? She stepped closer, lowering her sidearm completely. "I am Commander Tyrina Valcour," she said. "You are on Dominion territory. Speak or leave. But know this, we will not harm you. Unless forced." The human remained still. His eyes, visible now through the visor, were calm, unreadable, yet filled with something old. Something ancient. Strength. Patience. Knowledge. Tyrina's troops whispered among themselves, some fearful, some awed. The legends were alive. She felt it in her bones. The stories of human warriors long thought extinct had not been myths. They were memories of truth, hidden in one silent figure standing in the desert. And then, with a movement so subtle that only the sharpest eyes noticed, he crouched slightly, ready to spring if needed, yet still silent, still watching. Tyrina Valcour realized in that instant that she had underestimated the galaxy. That human, this single being, was a living testament to an ancient power. The kind of power that did not rely on weapons alone, but on will, endurance, and a courage that refused to die. Her hand rested lightly on her sidearm, but she did not raise it. There was no need. The moment was already a victory, not for dominance but for understanding. For the first time in her career, Commander Tyrina Valcour felt respect. Fear mingled with admiration. She had thought humans could no longer fight. She had thought them extinct. But here, standing before her in silence, one human challenged everything she had believed, and she knew this was only the beginning. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if witnessing the return of a legend long thought lost. And Tyrina Valcour, commander of the most feared fleet in the Dominion, realized that the galaxy was about to remember the name of humanity once again. The dust of Varel Nime swirled around the outpost, carried by a dry wind that whispered across jagged rocks. Commander Tyrina Valcour stood at the edge of the plateau, her eyes locked on the lone human figure still motionless against the rising sun. Her troops were tense, gripping their weapons yet unwilling to fire. Every instinct told them this was no ordinary opponent. Lieutenant Coran finally broke the silence. "Commander, we've scanned the area repeatedly. There's no sign of traps or hidden weapons, yet he moves like he knows our every step." Tyrina's gaze never left the human. "That is because he does. He is not just reacting. He is predicting, planning, observing us." The soldiers shifted uneasily. For the first time they felt the weight of fear. Not the fear of death, but of being outclassed by someone thought extinct. And then it happened. Without warning, the human moved. Not running, not charging, simply moving with precision. He stepped from the ridge and landed softly in the sand. One of Tyrina's drones, hovering nearby to scan the terrain, was disabled instantly. Its circuits sparked and went dark. The soldiers gasped. "He did that." "Without touching it?" Coran whispered. Tyrina shook her head. "No, he used observation, timing, skill." That is not technology alone. That is mastery. The human did not speak. He did not even glance at them. He simply continued, walking carefully toward the center of the ruined outpost, scanning the area like a predator and teacher all in one. Every step was deliberate, measured, quiet. Yet it sent a message. He was in control. "Prepare for engagement," Tirena commanded, though her voice carried a mix of caution and curiosity. "But no lethal force, unless necessary." The soldiers hesitated. None wanted to confront this silent figure, yet orders were orders. They advanced in formation, plasma rifles raised, their boots crunching against sand and metal debris. The human did not flee. He did not attack, and then he struck. A single soldier, eager to prove himself, aimed directly at the human. He fired. The beam streaked through the air, but the human moved with impossible speed, spinning and disarming the soldier before he could fire again. The weapon clattered to the ground untouched. The soldier froze, eyes wide in disbelief. Tirena's jaw tightened. "Stand down," she shouted. "Do not fire." The human stopped, watching. Nothing more. No words, no aggression beyond the precision of his movements. He did not celebrate. He did not mock. He simply stood, calm and silent, as if testing them, not to kill but to teach. Corin stepped forward. "Commander, we can't fight him like this. He's too fast, too smart. Our numbers mean nothing." Tirena looked around at her troops. Fear was spreading, but so was awe. "He is showing us something," she said quietly. "Watch him. Learn from him." This is what Terrans did. This is what made them the legends of old. Another soldier fired in panic, and again the human moved with impossible timing. He disarmed, blocked, and repositioned with quiet efficiency. Not a scratch was left on him, yet every movement taught a lesson in patience and precision. For the first time, Tirena realized the magnitude of what she was witnessing. The humans had been warriors not because of weapons, but because of mind, body, and spirit working together as one. The stories of their courage and endurance were not exaggeration. They were understatement. The human now stood in the center of the outpost, facing them, silent and unmoving. He did not threaten. He did not provoke. And yet every soldier in the Dominion army felt the truth. They were no longer in control. Tirena stepped forward herself, her boots crunching against the sand. "I am Commander Tirena Valcor," she said. "We do not want to fight. Surrender, and we will ensure your safety." The human's visor shifted slightly, just enough to reveal a pair of steady eyes. They were calm, almost unreadable, yet filled with focus and strength. He did not respond verbally, but the gesture of raising his hand slightly, like a signal of acknowledgement, was enough to tell her he understood. Tirena realized something vital in that moment. This human was not fighting to conquer. He fought to survive. He fought to remind the galaxy of a truth long forgotten. She studied him. Every motion he made, every breath he took seemed calculated to convey one thing. Humanity was not gone. Humanity could endure. Humanity could fight, even alone, even against overwhelming odds. The sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the desert, and Tirena felt a shift in herself. She was a soldier. She was trained in strategy, in combat, in command. But against this human, she understood that skill alone was not enough. There was something deeper at work, a strength born of will, patience, and centuries of survival. Corin's voice broke her thoughts. "Commander," his movements, "they're teaching us something, not just avoiding us, but guiding us, showing us what we are missing." Tirena nodded slowly. "Yes, watch carefully. This is the skill that built legends, the skill that made humans feared across the stars. Not weapons, not ships, not numbers, but discipline, observation, and courage." Suddenly the human moved again, this time toward the ridge. One of Tirena's squads attempted to flank him, thinking to cut him off. But the human anticipated every step. He moved silently, unseen, until he appeared directly behind their formation. The soldiers froze. Their formation broke apart, panic threatening to take over. Tirena's voice was sharp. "Hold position. Maintain discipline." But even as she spoke, she realized that no amount of discipline could replicate the instincts of this human. Every move he made, every action was precise, silent, perfect. The soldiers were learning something they had never been taught. Instinct, when combined with patience, could overcome technology, numbers, and even fear itself. Coran whispered, almost in awe. He's showing us how humans survived, how they became legends. Tirena's heart raced. She had faced many enemies. She had commanded fleets that destroyed entire colonies. But this single human, silent, precise, and calm, was teaching her what it meant to be a warrior. Not a conqueror, not a killer. A true warrior born of necessity, honed by survival, and tempered by the discipline of centuries. Minutes passed like hours as the human continued to move through the outpost, disarming traps, avoiding conflict, yet demonstrating skill in every motion. It was as if the entire battlefield had become his classroom, and every Dominion soldier was his student, whether they realized it or not. Tirena's mind raced with questions. How had he survived alone? How had humans endured for centuries when all others had fallen? And most importantly, what would he do next? She stepped forward again, her sidearm lowered completely. "I am Commander Tirena Valcour," she repeated, her voice calm but firm. "You are on Dominion territory. We do not wish to harm you, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. Will you not speak? Will you not answer?" The human stopped. For the first time, he looked directly at her. There was no anger, no hostility, only calm determination. He did not speak. He did not move. And yet in that silence he spoke volumes. He was here to prove that humanity could still endure, that one human could face an entire fleet and remain undefeated, that the galaxy had forgotten the lessons of the Terrans at its peril. Tirena's pulse quickened. She realized that what she had thought impossible, that humans could no longer fight, was a lie. The stories, the myths, the legends were true. Humans had survived. One still stood before her, silent and unwavering, ready to face anything, teach anything, and survive anything. And for the first time in her life, Commander Tirena Valcour felt a mix of fear and respect unlike anything she had known. The human lifted his hand slightly, almost imperceptibly, in a gesture that seemed to challenge her not to fight but to understand, to learn, to recognize that the galaxy had underestimated humanity and that one human could still change everything. Tirena nodded slowly. "Very well," she whispered almost to herself. "We will watch. We will learn. And we will remember." The winds of Varel 9 continued to sweep across the outpost, carrying sand and dust, but also something else. The first whispers of a legend reborn. A legend of courage, a legend of endurance, a legend of humanity. And the lone human, standing silent and watchful, became the first spark of that legend, ready to teach the galaxy what it had long forgotten. The sun climbed higher over Varel 9, burning away the thin morning mist and casting long shadows across the ruined mining outpost. Commander Tirena Valcour stood on the ridge, her eyes fixed on the lone human who had not moved from the center of the sand and rubble. For hours he had remained silent, his actions speaking louder than any words could. The Dominion troops were restless. Murmurs spread through the ranks, some in fear, some in awe. No one had faced an opponent like this before. Every soldier, trained for years in combat and strategy, was beginning to understand that skill alone could not match instinct, discipline, and patience combined. Tirena's gaze narrowed. She could see the precision in the human's movements. Every step he took, every breath he drew was calculated. It was as though he had studied the battlefield for years, even though he had only just arrived. And yet there was no sign of arrogance, no celebration, only calm, unwavering focus. Lieutenant Karan approached, his expression a mix of amazement and concern. "Commander, I've reviewed our sensors again. His reflexes, timing, they are beyond any human or alien training known. It's as if he can anticipate our actions before we even make them." Tirena did not respond immediately. She watched as the human crouched, analyzing a small section of the outpost. Then, with a movement so smooth it seemed almost unreal, he leapt onto a nearby platform, disarmed another trap, and dropped back to the ground without making a sound. "Observation, patience, and timing," she muttered under her breath. "This is how Terrans fought. Not with numbers, but with understanding. Understanding everything before striking." Karan's eyes widened. "Commander, he's teaching us. Every action. It's a lesson. Not just survival, but strategy, technique, awareness." Tirena nodded slowly. Her mind raced. For decades, the Dominion had conquered countless worlds, defeating alien species that had been more numerous, stronger, and better armed. Yet here, a single human without ships, without numbers, without communication, had rendered her entire landing squad ineffective. She stepped forward. "Lieutenant, prepare a controlled approach. No weapons unless I give the order. I want to see how far this human skill goes." Corin hesitated. "With respect, Commander, we could be walking into a trap. He's alone, but he's extraordinary." Tyreena's eyes were firm. "We are already in a trap if we do not understand him. Lead carefully, observe." The squad moved forward, keeping their distance, their rifles lowered. Every step was cautious, measured. The human watched them, his stance relaxed, yet ready. It was a paradox, calm yet deadly, silent yet teaching. And then, a sudden movement broke the stillness. A small mining robot, long abandoned, activated itself as if triggered by the human's presence. Its sensors lit up red and it began scanning for threats. Without hesitation, the human approached it, crouched, and disabled its core. The robot went silent, its lights fading. Not a single shot had been fired. No weapon was needed. The Dominion soldiers exchanged stunned glances. Their training had taught them to neutralize threats with overwhelming firepower. Yet here, a single human had solved the problem without fighting, without violence. Tyreena's mind whirled. "He is showing us that force is not the only solution," she whispered. "Strategy, observation, and skill can achieve more than brute strength." Another moment of silence passed. Then the human moved again, this time toward one of the damaged towers of the outpost. From a distance it looked like a simple inspection, but as he climbed the structure, he used every foothold and handhold with perfect precision, disarming makeshift traps that could have injured or killed. His movements were fluid, efficient, and purposeful. Tyreena could not tear her eyes away. She realized she was witnessing history. The skills that had made humans legends in the galaxy were alive in one individual. Corin spoke softly. "Commander, he is showing us the difference between surviving and merely existing. This is humanity at its peak." Tyreena felt a chill. She had faced opponents with superior numbers and advanced technology. She had commanded fleets that crushed entire planets, yet nothing had prepared her for this. A single human moving in silence had challenged her entire understanding of war. The human descended from the tower, landing lightly on the sand. He did not approach aggressively, yet every step commanded respect. He paused, glancing at Tyreena, and for the first time she noticed something else. His eyes were calm, but they held history. Centuries of experience, loss, victory, and endurance were written in their depths. She realized that the human did not need to speak. Every gesture, every movement, every silence was a message. Humanity had not fallen. Humanity had survived, and one human could still face an entire army without fear. Tyreena's thoughts were interrupted by Coran's voice. "Commander, he's looking at the weapons cache. The explosives and traps, he is neutralizing them without any harm." Tyreena nodded. "He is teaching us again. He shows that true skill is not just defeating your enemy, but avoiding unnecessary destruction. That is why humans were feared. Not because they wanted to conquer, but because they could survive and survive wisely." As the sun reached its peak, the outpost became a classroom. Every soldier, every officer watched in silence. The human moved from structure to structure, demonstrating balance, timing, patience, and awareness. He was teaching them without words. Every motion carried a lesson. Tyreena took a deep breath. "Lieutenant, we have underestimated them for too long. Humanity. They were not weak. They were not extinct. They were enduring. And one still stands." Corin's jaw tightened. "Commander, what do we do now? He is beyond anything we've faced." Tyreena's eyes hardened with resolve. "We observe, we learn. We do not attack, not yet. This human is showing us what it means to fight with honor, to fight with patience, and to survive against all odds. If we destroy him, we destroy our chance to understand, our chance to learn." The human paused in the center of the outpost, scanning the horizon. For the first time, he seemed to consider the Dominion troops directly. His stance remained calm, confident, and silent. Yet there was an unspoken challenge in the way he looked at them. He was not just surviving. He was proving a point. Tyreena realized the truth. This was not just a fight for survival. This was a lesson for the galaxy. Humanity had been underestimated. They had been written off as extinct, weak, or defeated. And yet, one human could still stand against overwhelming odds and teach the galaxy that they were not gone. She felt a mix of awe and humility. For decades she had commanded fleets, crushed worlds, and faced unimaginable threats. Yet none had taught her what this silent human was teaching. Not fear, not anger, but respect, courage, patience, skill, humanity. Karan's voice broke through her thoughts again. "Commander, he is preparing something. Look at the ridge. His movements. Precise, deliberate. He is ready for whatever comes next." Terena nodded. "Let him be. We will not provoke. We will learn. This human is more than a fighter. He is a teacher, and we must listen." The winds of Varel Nime swept across the outpost, carrying sand, dust, and a quiet tension. The Dominion soldiers stood frozen in a mixture of fear and admiration. They had expected battle, conquest, and victory. Instead, they had found a single human, a ghost of history, teaching them lessons no manual, no strategy, no weapon could convey, and for the first time, Terena Valcor understood something fundamental. Humans were not defined by their numbers, their ships, or their weapons. They were defined by their will, their courage, their ability to endure. And this one human, standing silent in the sun, was proof. For the first time in her career, Commander Terena Valcor realized that she was no longer facing an enemy. She was witnessing the rebirth of a legend of humanity. The human's eyes met hers once more, calm, unyielding, and filled with centuries of untold stories. No words were spoken. None were needed. The message was clear. Humanity still fought. Humanity still endured. Humanity still stood. And the galaxy, long forgetful of its greatest warriors, would soon remember. The winds of Varel Nime swept across the shattered outpost, lifting dust and sand into the air, carrying the scent of scorched metal and stone. Commander Terena Valcor stood on a plateau overlooking the battlefield, her fingers brushing the hilt of her sidearm. She had watched the human for hours, studying every motion, every decision, every silent lesson. She had begun to understand that this was more than a survivor. This was a warrior unlike any she had ever faced. Lieutenant Karan approached cautiously, his expression tense. "Commander, we've observed him neutralize our squads, dismantle traps, and move without making a sound. If we challenge him now, we risk losing every soldier here." Terena's eyes were fixed on the lone human in the center of the outpost. He stood calmly, his posture relaxed but ready, the blade at his side reflecting the twin sun's light. "I know," she said quietly, "but this ends with me. We need to see his full ability. If humanity can still fight, I need to face it myself. I need to see the truth." Corin's jaw tightened. "Commander, are you sure he is beyond any known skill?" "He is a legend come to life," Terena nodded. "I am sure. It is the only way to truly understand. Prepare the area. I will confront him directly." Her soldiers moved back, forming a wide circle, leaving a space of several meters between the commander and the human. The wind carried fine particles of sand, swirling around their boots like smoke over a battlefield. Every eye in the outpost was fixed on the human. Every sensor, every scan, every heartbeat was measured. Silence had descended, heavy, tense, and expectant. Terena took a deep breath, letting the wind carry her resolve across the empty field. "I am Commander Terena Valcor of the Kith Dominion," she said, her voice firm, carrying across the distance. "I challenge you not to kill, but to see the strength you possess. Face me in single combat." For a moment, nothing happened. The human did not move. He did not speak. Then slowly he raised his hand, fingers extended in acknowledgement. His visor reflected the sunlight, hiding the emotions behind it. Yet something in his stance spoke clearly. He was ready. Terena stepped forward, gripping her weapon firmly. It was not just a challenge, it was a test. She had faced powerful adversaries before, alien creatures and rogue fleets, but nothing had ever made her feel the way this human did. She felt the weight of history in his presence, the echoes of battles fought long before the Dominion had risen. The human moved first, not aggressively but deliberately. He shifted his stance, positioning himself to observe her fully. Every motion was controlled, precise, and calm. There was no hesitation, no uncertainty, only readiness. Terena lunged forward with her weapon, testing his reflexes. He blocked her strike, moving fluidly, almost as if anticipating her thoughts. She struck again, faster this time, and again he deflected with ease. Each motion she made was met with perfect timing, a silent lesson in patience and anticipation. Her mind raced. This is not about power. It's about control, awareness, discipline. She adjusted her technique, striking from unexpected angles, testing his reaction. The human moved like water, flowing with her attacks, countering without aggression. He did not aim to harm, yet every block and dodge demonstrated skill, precision, and centuries of experience. Lieutenant Karan watched from the edge of the circle, whispering to the other officers. "Commander, he isn't just defending, he's teaching. Every motion shows a principle. Timing, balance, anticipation. He's showing us how humans survived." Tarina's breathing grew steady. Her body moved on instinct, trained through countless battles, yet the human was always one step ahead. She realized that she was not facing an enemy who wanted to kill. She was facing a teacher who demanded she understand. The duel continued. Blades clashed, sparks flying in the bright sun. Sand shifted beneath their feet, kicked up by precise movements. Tarina struck hard, testing strength. The human redirected effortlessly. She tried to feint to trick him, but he anticipated, moving with clarity and patience. After what felt like hours, though in reality only minutes had passed, Tarina stepped back, her chest heaving. Sweat ran down her brow. She lowered her weapon slightly, not out of fear, but in recognition. I am being taught by someone I never expected to face. The human paused, lifting his hand slightly, not in surrender, but as a signal. A challenge, yet not a threat. His eyes met hers behind the visor, calm and unwavering, almost as if to say, "You are learning. Are you ready to understand?" Tarina's voice was quiet, almost a whisper to herself. "I see you. I understand. You are not just a fighter. You are a living lesson. You are humanity itself." The human moved again, now demonstrating a series of techniques that were impossible to ignore. He used leverage, precision, and anticipation to counter attacks, never harming her but showing the danger of miscalculation. Each motion was a story, a memory of centuries past when humans had been feared across galaxies. Tarina realized something vital. She had underestimated the very nature of humanity. The Dominion believed humans were extinct, weak, and insignificant. And yet here one human stood, silent, patient, and infinitely skilled. One human could face an army and remain undefeated. Not because of numbers, but because of discipline, courage, and intelligence. She attacked again, faster, with a combination of moves she had perfected over decades. Yet the human flowed with her, each block and dodge a lesson in strategy. He was teaching her the importance of patience, of waiting for the right moment, of using the opponent's energy against them. Lieutenant Karan whispered again, awestruck. "Commander, he's teaching us how humans survived the impossible. He's showing us what made them legends. Every movement, every reaction." Tarina nodded slowly, her mind absorbing the lesson. She realized she had been trained to fight, to conquer, to win, but not to understand. Humans had survived because they had mastered observation, patience, and strategy. They had adapted, learned, and endured. The duel reached a silent climax. Tarina lunged once more, her weapon striking with full force. The human met her attack, deflecting and redirecting, and then, without aggression, disarmed her. Her weapon clattered to the sand. She froze. The human did not advance. He did not strike. He simply stepped back, eyes calm, hands lowered, showing restraint, respect, and understanding. The battlefield was silent. Her soldiers held their breath. The wind whispered through the rocks, carrying the weight of what had just occurred. Tarina's chest heaved, not from exhaustion, but from awe. She realized she had been defeated, not by strength, not by numbers, not by technology, but by skill, patience, and understanding. Humanity had not fallen. It had survived. And one human, standing silent before her, had proven it. Tarina knelt slightly in the sand, bowing her head in respect. "I see now," she whispered. "I believed humans could not fight. I believed they were gone, but you have proven me wrong. Not as a conqueror, not as a warrior, but as a lesson. A living history." The human lifted his visor slightly, revealing eyes that were calm, steady, and full of centuries of experience. He nodded once, not in triumph, but in acknowledgement. He had taught his lesson, and in doing so, he had reminded the galaxy of something long forgotten. Humanity still stood. The Dominion soldiers lowered their weapons. Their commander, humbled, watched as the human stepped back, retreating silently into the shadows of the ruins. No words were spoken. None were needed. The lesson had been delivered and it would not be forgotten. Tyrrena rose slowly, her mind clear. She had faced a legend and she had learned. Humanity had survived the impossible. Humanity had endured, and one human standing in silence had reminded her and her fleet of a truth they had long forgotten. The sun continued its climb, casting light across the desolate outpost, illuminating the sand, the metal, and the figure that would become a legend. Commander Tyrrena Valcour knew that this day would be recorded in history, not as a battle won or lost, but as a moment when the galaxy remembered the strength, patience, and courage of humanity. And the human? He disappeared into the ruins, leaving behind only the lesson that true strength was more than power. It was patience, skill, courage, and the will to endure. The legend of humanity, once thought extinct, had been reborn, and the galaxy would never forget it again. The dust settled over the ruins of Varel Nime as the twin suns began their descent. Commander Tyrrena Valcour stood on the ridge, watching the horizon where the lone human had vanished. The battlefield was quiet now, almost eerily so, except for the soft whisper of the wind and the distant groan of abandoned machinery. Her soldiers remained in place, their weapons lowered, eyes wide with awe. For hours she had observed him, not attacking, not boasting, not demanding recognition. He had fought silently, yet every move had spoken volumes. The human had shown them skill, patience, and endurance, the qualities that had once made humanity legendary. And now, standing alone, she realized that she and her fleet were witnessing more than a fight. They were witnessing a story long forgotten, a truth that had survived the ages. Lieutenant Karan approached carefully. "Commander, he's gone. And yet, I feel like we've learned more from him than from 100 battles. It's unbelievable." Tyrrena did not respond immediately. Her mind was still replaying the duel, the silent lessons, the way he had moved with precision and purpose. Every strike, every dodge, every step had been deliberate, yet somehow graceful. He had not sought victory over her. He had sought understanding, for her, for the Dominion, and perhaps for the galaxy itself. Finally, she spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "Corin, humanity is not extinct. Not yet. And this one human, he is proof. Proof that courage, patience, and skill cannot be erased. No matter how long the years, no matter how many fleets rise or fall, the human spirit endures." Corin nodded, still amazed. "Commander, what do we do now? We cannot leave him unknown. The galaxy needs to know he exists." Tyrrena looked out over the ruins. "We do not seek to conquer. We do not seek to destroy. But we will record this, so that history remembers, so that humans are never underestimated again." The soldiers quietly moved to secure the area, but there was no urgency, no fear. The presence of the human had shifted something fundamental within them. They had expected a battle, a conquest, a victory over an opponent. Instead, they had found a teacher, a silent, skilled, enduring force that reminded them of what it meant to fight with honor, patience, and courage. As the hours passed, Tyrrena made her way to her ship, the Iron Talon. She recorded a personal log, her hands steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Her voice, calm and deliberate, carried across the ship's recording systems. "Today we encountered a human, a being thought extinct. He did not speak, he did not attack, yet every motion, every decision, every step was a lesson. Humanity has survived the impossible. One human, standing in silence, has reminded us of the truth. Courage, discipline, and patience are as powerful as any weapon. The galaxy must remember this. Humanity is not gone. Humanity endures." She paused, letting the words settle. Her mind wandered to the human's eyes, the calm, steady gaze that had spoken more than any speech could. There was no arrogance, no pride, no desire for glory, only quiet strength and understanding of life, survival, and the importance of teaching the next generation. Corin approached again, watching her thoughtfully. "Commander, do you think we will see him again?" Tirena shook her head slowly, a faint smile on her lips. Perhaps. Perhaps not. But it does not matter. What matters is the lesson he has left behind. The galaxy will never forget that humans still stand. That one being can challenge fleets, endure the impossible, and teach more than any historian ever could. That is a legacy stronger than weapons or numbers. That is what makes humans remarkable. The days that followed were filled with reflection. Tirena and her crew analyzed every sensor reading, every recorded movement of the human. They studied his techniques, his patience, his ability to adapt to every situation. Every officer, every soldier, understood that they had been in the presence of something extraordinary. Not just a fighter, but a symbol, a living testament to the strength of humanity. News of the encounter spread quietly at first, through Dominion channels, then throughout the galaxy. Reports described a single human standing against an entire fleet, moving silently, teaching without words, and surviving against overwhelming odds. Skeptics dismissed some of the stories as exaggeration, but those who had witnessed the battle knew the truth. Humanity had not vanished. One human had proven it. Tirena prepared a report for the Dominion Council, detailing the encounter. Her words were precise, factual, yet carried the weight of what she had experienced. We faced a human warrior today, one alone, yet capable of facing an entire squad without loss. He did not speak, yet his actions conveyed knowledge, strategy, and discipline. He fought not for conquest, but to teach. Humanity is not extinct. Humanity endures. We must record this truth for the galaxy. Even as she wrote, she could not forget the silent figure standing on the ridge, the way his blade had moved, the calm certainty of his eyes. She realized that he was not just a warrior. He was a reminder that survival was not measured by fleets or numbers, but by courage, patience, and skill. Days turned into weeks, and the Dominion fleet returned to its usual patrols. But something had changed. Commander Tirena Valcour, once focused only on conquest and control, now carried a new respect for humanity. She knew that if humans were underestimated, it was only because the galaxy had forgotten their strength, and now one human had reminded her, and all who witnessed, of what had been lost and what could endure. In the quiet moments, she often returned in her thoughts to the human. Where had he come from? How had he survived alone for so long? Why? Had he chosen to face them, yet not fight to kill? The answers were as mysterious as the human himself, but the lesson was clear. Strength was not only in victory, strength was in patience, understanding, and endurance. One evening, as the twin suns set and painted the desert in shades of gold and crimson, Tirena walked alone across the plateau. She imagined the human standing in the shadows, watching silently, ready to vanish at a moment's notice. She felt no fear, only respect, admiration, and understanding. Perhaps one day, she whispered to the wind, the galaxy will see the full extent of your legacy, and perhaps then humans will never be forgotten again. That night, the Dominion fleet recorded the event in the official archives, marking it as a historic encounter. Every detail was preserved, the location, the tactics, the silent duel, and the lessons observed. It was more than a battle report. It was a testament to the enduring strength of humanity. The human was never seen again. Some believed he had returned to the stars, others to the ruins of the Terran worlds. Some thought he was a myth, come to life just long enough to remind the galaxy of what had been lost. But everyone who had witnessed him understood the truth. Humanity had not fallen. Humanity could endure, and one human had proven it to an entire fleet. Commander Tirena Valcour often thought of that silent figure, moving through the ruins, teaching without words, showing the Dominion what it meant to fight, to survive, and to endure. The lesson had been delivered, and it was unforgettable. And as the stars emerged above Varel 9, twinkling like distant fires, she knew that the galaxy would remember this day. Humanity, long thought lost, had left a mark stronger than any weapon. The legend of the silent human warrior would endure, inspiring generations to come. In the archives, in the hearts of those who had witnessed the encounter, and in the stories that would spread across the stars, one truth became clear. Humans were not extinct. Humans were not powerless. Humans endured. And one silent warrior had reminded the galaxy of everything it had forgotten. The legacy was complete. The lesson had been learned. And the stars, silent witnesses to the event, seemed to shine a little brighter that night, illuminating the return of a legend. Commander Tirena Valcor looked up at the sky, her voice quiet but certain. The last human warrior still stands, not to conquer, not to dominate, but to remind us of the courage, patience, and strength that endure. Humanity lives. And somewhere, perhaps watching from the shadows, the human remained, a silent guardian, a teacher, and a living testament to the indomitable spirit of his species. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not finished. Humanity had survived. Humanity endured.